Fear is a very convincing liar. It tells you all kinds of porcupines to keep you trapped exactly where you are. I should know, I've been dancing to the lies of fear for far too long. So I'm going to share with you some of the common lies that fear tells you so you can finally recognize its traps and break free from the tyranny of fear and live the life that you dream of. I'm Nicola, and I've been working for decades to free myself from fear so I can be the best possible version of myself and finally do the things that I know I'm here to do. Every time I have a business idea or an idea for a new project, there's a voice in my head that tells me, oh, you need to come up with the perfect name first. So I spend hours or days coming up with the perfect name for this before I can even move forward, before I can do anything, explore the idea, put anything in place, make any plans. I've got to have that perfect name first. And this lie lives in the gap between where we are and where we want to be. And it says there's always one more thing to fix, one more thing to do, one more thing to resolve, one more thing to get approval for, one more hurdle to overcome, one more thing you need permission before you can move forward. But the reality is that permission will never come. You will never have done everything you need in order to be able to have permission and be allowed to move forward. So the antidote to this lie is to give yourself the permission that you seek. And your action step here is to look at your life and find 3 things that you've been telling yourself you have to do first before you can go for your goals. To choose one of them and let it go and go for the goal anyway. I've spent much of my life feeling like I have to do everything myself, like I have to be the one in charge, like I have to prepare for every possibility, to plan ahead as much as possible, to do everything I can to control my experience. And if I can't do it all, or if I need to ask for help, that I'm weak or a burden, or that if I do get someone else to do something for me, that it won't be done right. And the lie that fear tells us here is that it's all up to you. But the reality is that you can't do it all. You don't have enough time, energy, resources, or the skills to do it all yourself. You can't possibly control it all or do it all. It's just not humanly possible. And so the antidote here is to let go and let God or the universe take care of it, to do the 0.1% that you can control and let God or the universe take care of the 99.9% that is the rest of it. So your task for this lie is to ask for help with something, to find something that you're struggling with and to reach out and ask for help and be okay with that. And to trust the process, which is hilarious because my guidance keeps telling me over and over, trust the process, and one day I'll get there. When I started this channel, and in fact every time I sit down to make a video for this channel, there is a voice in my head that says, you don't know everything, you don't have all the facts and all the information, you need to go out there and research and learn and find absolutely everything there is to know on this topic. And the lie that fear tells us here is that we need to know more, that we are not enough, that we will never be enough. But the reality is that we can't possibly know it all. There will always be someone who knows more than we know. There will always be other facts and information and knowledge that we don't have. And that's not the point. The antidote to this one is to realize that people need what we have to share. In only the way that we can share it. We have a unique combination of skills and experience in whatever form it takes, and it's up to us to share that gift with the world. I love this quote from Bashar that says, who are we to decide in advance that what we have is not worth sharing? Who are we to deprive the world of what it is that we have to offer, of the gifts that we have to offer? So your task here is to take one small step forward, to take that step, even if you don't have absolutely everything you think you need in order to move forward, to take that step anyway. In the past, when I've applied for jobs, I know intellectually it would be ideal for me to ring the company and talk to a real person and get a sense of the company, understand the job better, see if it's a fit for me, and start to build that relationship with the person on the other end. But there is something in me that absolutely refuses to do that. I cannot bring myself to do that. So instead, I just write my best application and move on. And the voices running through my head are imagining the terrible things that will happen if I do reach out. And in fact, it imagines the worst possible scenario, being judged, all these terrible scenarios just stop me from taking that step. And the lie that fear is telling us here is that if you try, you will fail and probably die. Which I know sounds silly, but that is the intensity of this fear that we have around trying and failing. But the reality is that you have failed many times before. And not only did you survive, but you were okay, and you might have even learned something from it. So the antidote to this is to recognize that failing won't be as bad. Trying may not necessarily lead to failure, and even if you do fail, it won't be as bad as you expect, and you'll be okay. You can actually handle this situation to reframe trying and or failing as a learning experience, to see what you can learn from that instead, and to learn to fail faster so that you can learn faster. So your action step is to reflect on a failure that you've had in the past and dig the lessons out of it. What did you learn from that? And journaling is a great way to do this. And I've got a guide with a bunch of journaling prompts that you might find helpful as you reflect on a past failure and what you learned from it. I'm sure you've seen the tough act, often from guys who put on this tough veneer like nothing's ever going to affect them. They don't want to risk getting hurt, so they act like whatever it is they're doing doesn't matter. They disconnect from themselves from the situation, or they numb themselves out from what's going on. And the lie that fear tells us here is that it's safer not to care. You won't get hurt if you don't care. But the reality is that you do care about these things. You wouldn't be doing them if you didn't care. And caring is what brings you to life. It's what makes you feel alive. And the antidote to this lie is to care deeply about your goals, to recognize that you do care and to allow yourself to care, because if you choose apathy, it kills the joy too. You can't get rid of the painful feelings without getting rid of the good feelings as well. So your action step is to examine your goals and be honest about how much they really do actually mean to you, and have the courage to take the risk of the pain and do the thing anyway. Something my husband struggles with is when he is working on releasing issues or behaviours or habits that no longer serve him. Is he has this voice that says, well, if I release this thing, I won't know who I am anymore. I won't be me anymore. It's as though it feels safer to stay where you are and play it small, as if feeling comfortable is equal to safety. So the lie that fear tells us is that change is dangerous, that something terrible will happen if things change. But the reality is that change is both constant and inevitable. Life is constant change. We can't avoid change from happening. So the antidote to this is to realize that growth happens outside of our comfort zone, that everything we want in life is outside of our comfort zone. It's on the other side of that discomfort that we're avoiding. So your task is to try something new today. Even if it's something really tiny, try something new and start to show yourself that change can not only be okay, but it can actually be beneficial and enjoyable. Over the years, I've dealt with many bouts of depression, and during those dark, bleak moments, I feel so alone. I feel like what I'm feeling right now will go on forever, that no one else understands how I'm feeling, and that feeling this way somehow means that I'm broken or flawed. The lie that fear tells us is that you're the only one who's ever felt this way, and it can really feel like that in the moment. But the reality is that everything we have ever felt has been felt by someone before at some point, and they've probably even written a song about it. And the antidote to this is to realize that the human experience is a shared one. The things that we experience as human beings are experienced by everyone at some point in some way, and that by connecting over these shared experiences, we realize that we're no longer alone, and connecting over these shared experiences is what makes us human. And so your task is to have courage to reach out to someone and talk to someone about the things that you're struggling with, or if you need to do it from a distance, to read biographies of people and see how everyone struggles with the same things, to understand that we go through the same experiences, and to be willing to be vulnerable and share that with other people. To counter fear, the first thing you need to do is catch the lies as they come into your awareness. You need to hear those words coming into your head before they take over and start to control you. And I've got a whole video on developing self-awareness that you might want to watch that can help you to develop that self-awareness, to make sure you notice those lies as they come into your head. the next thing you need to do is start asking lots of questions, those voices in your head, to ask things like, is this accurate? Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it appropriate? To actually challenge those voices, to understand whether what they're saying is actually in your best interests. And you need to start taking small steps. You need to start getting out into the world and doing new things. You want to show yourself that you can achieve things, that you can make progress, that all those terrible things that fear is telling you will happen are not actually happening, to show yourself that it's safe to actually move forward. And remember that fear is a big fat lie, and it will take every opportunity it can to sabotage your best efforts. But now you know some of its most common lies and how to counter them, so you can release the grip of fear and start living the best version of your life. And if you need a simple way to sit with fear as it rises up and grips you by the throat without becoming overwhelmed by it, watch this video next. And I'll see you in the next one.